How a child's self-awareness develops. The journey of discovering their self. Hello. Today we're diving into a fascinating milestone in a child's growth, the development of self-awareness. It might sound complex, but it's simply the moment when a child starts to understand who I am, what I want, and begins expressing it to us. In this conversation, we'll explore the following key points. Evidence of self-awareness development. How do we know a child is starting to recognize themselves? Levels of self-awareness in children. What are the stages of self-awareness? And what does a child experience? Self-awareness and language development. The close connection between a child's self-recognition and how they use language to express it. Let's dive into each part. Evidence of self-awareness development. Have you ever wondered how a tiny baby begins to recognize themselves? While scientists are still exploring how a child's brain and psychology work, we know that self-awareness typically emerges between 1 and 3 years old. Renowned infant researcher Daniel Stern pointed out that around 18 months, babies show clear signs of self-awareness. You might notice this when they enjoy looking in the mirror, say their own name, or even show empathy toward others. They also start expressing their likes and dislikes more clearly, stating their needs and wants. For example, a child might point to a toy and say, "Mine," instead of just babbling. Stern also described an interesting finding from studies involving mirrors. As self-awareness grows, children begin using words like me or mine to refer to themselves. They might also use their own name and show more empathetic behaviors, indicating they understand they're a distinct individual others are curious about. To test this, researchers Lewis and Brooks Gunn conducted a clever experiment. They placed a red dot on a child's nose and put them in front of a mirror. Children with self-awareness would touch their own nose instead of the mirror's reflection, showing they recognize themselves. Studies found that almost no children under 1 year old do this. However, this research focuses only on visual self-awareness. In reality, children may show other forms of self-awareness earlier. For instance, researchers like Lewis, Sullivan, Stanger, and Weiss believe that how children express emotions is also tied to self-awareness and their ability to reflect on themselves in relation to others. Levels of self-awareness in children. So, how exactly does a child realize they're a unique individual, separate from others? Developmental psychologist Philippe Rochot outlined 5 levels of self-awareness that children progress through. 1. Differentiation. At this stage, a child starts noticing their reflection in a mirror. They sense something distinct or special when looking at it. 2. Situation. The child begins to understand that their reflection, body, and movements are separate from those around them. They realize they're not part of their parents or nearby objects. 3. Identification. Here, the child fully recognizes their reflection as themselves. They might point to themselves and confidently say, "That's me." 4. Permanence. At this level, the child is fully aware of themselves and can recognize themselves in photos or videos, even if their appearance changes slightly, like wearing a hat or having a haircut. 5. Self-consciousness. This is when a child starts seeing themselves from others' perspectives. They become aware that others view them in certain ways, which can lead to emotions like pride or embarrassment depending on the situation. This is a major leap in emotional development. Self-awareness and language development. Have you noticed that when a child starts talking, their unique personality shines through more? That's because language and self-awareness are closely linked. As self-awareness grows, children express a desire to be independent individuals. They want to separate from their parents, share their own emotions and opinions, and sometimes this leads to small conflicts with parents. Ever heard a child say, "No, don't worry, it's a perfectly normal part of this developmental process"? Saying, "No, is a sign of growing independence and self-awareness. Renowned psychoanalyst John Getto once said, "Self-awareness develops strongly by the end of the second year of life." Alongside the acquisition of verbal communication skills, he explained that language helps children learn a system of symbols for their emotions, enabling them to express feelings like, "I'm sad," or "I'm happy," instead of just crying or giggling. Growing self-awareness is a crucial milestone for young children. They become independent individuals with their own preferences and needs. This shift offers parents a wonderful opportunity to guide their child toward their unique path, benefiting them throughout life. However, for some parents, this transition can be bittersweet. As children grow more independent, parents may feel both joy and a sense of loss, realizing their child is no longer the little baby they once were. The journey of a child discovering their self is both exciting and meaningful. As parents, let's support, understand, and create the best environment for our children to develop fully. Do you have any questions about this topic? Or would you like to share your experiences as your child begins exploring their own self?